And we welcome you back to Newsmax Now. More fallout at Breitbart now after reporter Michelle Fields and editor Ben Shapiro resigned. Several employees, including the website spokesman, have now quit. This comes after Fields accused Donald Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, of assaulting her when she tried to ask Trump a question during one of his rallies at the very first Super Tuesday in Florida. His rally was there. Florida wasn't voting, of course. She put a picture on Instagram, or a Twitter account too, which allegedly showed bruises from the incident. She and editor Shapiro resigned because Fields says she doesn't feel like they supported her and they were more interested in staying on good terms with Donald Trump.
And to discuss the fallout further, we want to welcome in today's guest, Bre Payton. She's a staff writer for the Federalist, and we also have with us Jack Burkman, conservative strategist and the host of Behind the Curtain. Thank you both for joining us here on Newsmax Now.
Thank you, Miranda.
Thank you.
So according to a New York Times report, those executives and journalists that John mentioned left Breitbart because they claim the organization turned into a, quote, shill for the Trump campaign and failed to support Michelle Fields. Now, the news publication also suggests that Breitbart saw an increase in traffic of 120% because of its Trump coverage. Bre, whether or not this is true or not, will this story change people's perception of Breitbart?
Well, I think that Breitbart right now is definitely serving a niche in that they are the stories that they are writing about the Trump campaign and the way that they're covering the 2016 election definitely has a pro-Trump slant to it, right? Like we can just clearly see that in the headlines and the way that they cover it. So I think they're definitely serving a niche that other publications just aren't reaching. And so I think that's probably why they're getting the spike in traffic that they're getting. But I think definitely the fact that a lot of reporters are leaving and a lot of reporters are, like a lot of internal communication was leaked over the weekend too to BuzzFeed, and we got to see kind of the tensions between the overlords and a lot of the other writers on staff who feel that that organization did not protect Michelle the way that they should have, and that they have been pushing Donald Trump in kind of an unethical manner. And there's been speculations about sources of funding. So I think definitely a lot of the controversy surrounding this as shedding to light a lot of issues with that organization.
Unethical manner, just the way MSNBC.
Hold on, Jack. Let Bre finish real quick. Go ahead, Bre.
I was going to say, as you said, regardless of whether or not this is true, I think it definitely is bringing a lot of attention to the unethical and, kind of skeezy nature that Breitbart has been putting out, the nature of their coverage that they've been putting out this election cycle.
All right, Jack, I know you want to jump in here. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I think I'm going deaf. I apologize to Bre. Anyway, I would just say that, Breitbart is winning because we're talking about them. Every news organization has its slants and biases. I mean, I think if Breitbart is pushing Trump, that's a good thing for them. It's smart because when he's the nominee, and it appears he will be, they'll get a lot of exclusives at the convention. They'll get a lot of scoops. I think it works well for them. And it also works well for Trump because guess what? We're talking about Donald Trump again, this time with the violence and the riots and all of these other things. Trump is the strategy he has practiced from the beginning, and I think it's brilliant. I call it preemption. And that is preempt the whole news space with nothing but discussion of Donald Trump, such that the other candidates can't get any oxygen. And they're essentially starved for media oxygen. Trump has done this really since the first Republican debate, and he's done it brilliantly.
Bre, did he do that, or did the media let him do that?
I think that they have a codependent relationship, right? Like, I think as much as the media likes to talk about how much they hate Donald Trump and likes to kind of paint him in a bad light, I think that they do lack the tenacity to really go after him in the way that they should, right? Like, in regards to this controversy over Michelle Fields in particular, Donald Trump did 4 Sunday shows, and none of the hosts asked him whether or not he was going to fire or reprimand or do any follow-up actions to stop the alleged behavior of Corey Lewandowski, right? So I think the fact that he is getting all this airtime, the fact that it's not just Breitbart, but a lot of media figures tend to treat him with kid gloves is rather alarming.
Well, the police in Jupiter, Florida are investigating this incident, and I think a lot is going to hinge on what comes back from that police investigation. But speaking of enabling Donald Trump, I want to go back to another moment from the hot mic clip that was captured between Hillary Clinton and Chris Matthews. We talked about Chris Christie earlier, but before that, she was lecturing the media, namely MSNBC, on their coverage of Donald Trump. Take a listen.
Why did he support him? Because they're chatting. They all want a future. They want a future
Christie doesn't.
You think
Christie's not going to be court.
did he have a dad?
Cory Booker is there.
All right, that's the wrong clip, actually. But she asked Chris Matthews why you guys can't stop covering him. He's a dangerous presence, Clinton says. He's like candy by the bushel. Chris Matthews admitted that they have progressive leanings, obviously, but nobody can tell what people want to watch. Very telling, I think, in that exchange between Hillary Clinton and Chris Matthews. I mean, the fact is, the voters want more Donald Trump. The viewers seem to want more Donald Trump, Jack.
Well, he's been popular for 20 years. He's like a 3 decades old soap opera. He's an ongoing television platform himself, and that's not stopping. I think the media has a wonderful relationship with Donald Trump.
I would turn that around. I think Donald Trump is a genius at using the media to his advantage, and I think we've seen that across this campaign.
Oh, I think that's true. I really think that Donald Trump won this nomination the first time, right at the first debate, when he used the words, "only Rosie O'Donnell." When Megyn Kelly hit him with all the feminist stuff, he took all the political correctness, dumped it on its head, and he took on Donald Trump's genius with the media is that he found an issue that the Republican base cared about most. They cared about it more than immigration, more than health care, more than anything. It was the war against PC. And that's his real genius. He discovered that. And he started right from the top. I think when he used those three simple words, "only Rosie O'Donnell," most of the Republican base stood up and cheered. And that was the moment where they had found a leader. They had found their leader, their bold, courageous leader.
Bre, do you agree with that assessment?
I don't think that Donald Trump is brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. I think that he just is ridiculous and outrageous. And I think that the reason why the media is so addicted to him is something larger going on than just politics. I think that it shows that the culture is really hungry for this sort of, crazed reality, outrage kind of spectacle. And so I think this is really the first time that a lot of people have been paying attention to the political cycle. Like, it's interesting, just the other day, I've been having a lot of political conversations with people who I wouldn't expect, right? Like, the other day I had a conversation with an Uber driver who was just going on and on about Donald Trump. And
Me too, Bre. I am in the
anything
same
else.
category. Every single one of my friends who's not politically active, they want to talk about this election.
Right.
It's unlike anything I've ever experienced.
Which is
15
great.
years of covering news.
It's great. If more people are involved, that's wonderful.
All right, we got more to talk about with Bre and Jack. We're going to talk about Donald Trump and the new effort mounting against him. Plus, a 4-year-old gets up and walks away from getting hit by a car. How could that be possible, especially when you see this video? Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it. We're coming back with more. And we welcome you back to Newsmax Now. I'm John Bachman, topping your headlines. First polls close in just about an hour and a half. 5 states, of course, voting today. It will be a pivotal night for the race for the 2016 White House. Stay with Newsmax TV and Newsmax.com for live coverage throughout the night. The Obama administration loosening sanctions against Cuba. Now Cubans can get jobs in the United States, or they can open a bank account. This comes just days ahead of President Obama's historic visit to the communist island. The National Football League has for the first time acknowledged a link between football and the brain disease CTE. CTE affected Hall of Famers Junior Seau and Ken Stabler. The CDC issues new guidelines to limit opioid painkiller prescriptions. The new rules are voluntary. They ask doctors to prescribe alternative pain treatments like ibuprofen and physical therapy before they prescribe narcotics. Seems like common sense. President Obama also welcoming the Irish Prime Minister Edna Kenny to the White House today. The two don green ties in honor of St. Patrick's Day this upcoming Thursday. I wonder if they drank green beer. Check out this crazy video from China. It shows a minibus. Wow. Running over a 4-year-old boy. But what's even more amazing about this is watch the boy get up and walk away. No word if he suffered any serious injuries, but he seems to be okay. Pope Francis will debut on Instagram this coming Saturday. The account will be called Franciscus.
Donald Trump says he's the unifier the Republican Party needs. Today, he implied that some of the top GOP leaders are reaching out to him as he hopes to lock up even more delegates tonight.
The biggest people in the party are calling. They want to sit down. They want to make Paul Ryan as an example. I have a lot of respect for him. He called last week. A lot of people are calling because they see what's happening.
But Trump wouldn't exactly say who else called him besides Speaker Paul Ryan. While Trump continues to talk about bringing the GOP together, this ad from our Principles PAC hopes to rip that message apart by using Trump's remarks about women against him.
Bimbo.
Dog.
Fat pig.
Real quotes from Donald Trump about women.
A person who is very flat-chested is very hard to be a 10.
I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers.
Look at that face. Would anyone vote for that?
All right, let's welcome back in our roundtable. On that note, today we have Bre Payton. She's a staff writer for The Federalist, and Jack Burkman rejoining us, conservative strategist and the host of Behind the Curtain. Thanks for sticking around, guys.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, Jack, first to you. All those are Donald Trump's words echoed by women. What's your reaction to that political ad?
Really just what I said before, John. It's PC. It's the war on PC. Trump loves being hit with an ad. He loves it.
I think this goes beyond PC. You wouldn't want to say those things to your mom.
No, but I mean, people use words like that. I think it's really dead center a PC issue. This gives Trump, I mean, you say maybe it does go beyond PC, but the political reality is it gives Trump an opportunity to highlight the PC issue, which is probably the number one issue to the Republican base. And I think even for a lot of swing voters, it's probably top 5 issues when you get into the general election. I think using an ad against him like that right now, I think it plays right into his hands. He gets to talk about political correctness, and I think it really it solidifies his grip on the Republican nomination.
I kind of agree with you to that end, although I also have an issue with the ad itself in these groups like our Principles PAC, which is mostly Republicans coming out against Donald Trump and giving Democrats this type of ammo because they're going to use it. But Bre, as a woman, what is your reaction to this ad? Is it powerful? Does it move you?
I don't see how this ad is really going to sway anyone at this point. We've all heard Trump say really rude and disparaging things about women in particular, so I don't really see how putting it all together in an ad like that would really sway anyone. Obviously, I was, when I saw this ad, it bothered me, but
now, the ad bothered you, or did it bring up
me anything new?
Did the ad bother you itself, or did it bring up those old feelings you felt when you first heard Trump say these things on the campaign trail?
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. It reminded me of all of the things that he said about women and how horrible and disparaging that he is towards us and, just how rude he is in general. So for me, someone who already didn't like him and think that he's unpresidential,
I think Donald
it works,
Trump, listen,
but I don't see how it converts anyone else.
What do you want to say, Jack?
Let me say 2 things. I think Donald Trump is a great lover of women, and I'm out of the closet. I'm an out-of-the-closet Donald Trump supporter. I'm a proud supporter as of about a month ago. But I will tell you this. One thing to watch out for, in about 60 days, you're going to see a new Donald Trump. He's playing one character now. He'll begin playing another character in 60 days. That character will be moderate Donald Trump. And that character will remind viewers in a subtle way that at one time he was pro-choice. You're going to see Trump waffle on the abortion question in the general election. He might even attract a lot of female voters, a lot of young women, a lot of swing voters with that. Donald Trump is about to surprise the world again in that he'll play a totally different character come Memorial Day. Don't forget that.
Does he risk losing anybody, though, by doing that?
Sure, but remember, the Republican base, yes, he does, but you're going to have a lot of that base with him anyway. So if evangelicals get put off on the abortion issue or something like that, they're not going to vote for Hillary. You're still going to have high turnout. Trump has massively high Republican turnout, the highest since 1980, even before. I think it's a smart play. If I were Trump, I'd do it too.
Well, if you look at the debate last week, before everything kind of happened on Thursday night, or Thursday, I believe it was, with the punch at the rally. So what the debate was last Thursday and the punch of the rally was on Friday, I believe. Mm-hmm. When you look at that, it sounded almost as if Donald Trump was trying to be that guy that you talked about, Jack, back then. But then the weekend happened. You had the punch. You had the riot basically in Chicago, and then everything that followed. And I wonder if he felt like he was losing a lot of that support, like you alluded to, and that he needed to ramp it back up a bit to keep people engaged because... to make sure
that... I mean, he's tried to... Trump has been the big issue. The media has asked the question since June, when will Donald Trump dial it back? And they've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And we thought that last week's debate, just as you point out, John, was the moment at which he dialed it back. And then he dialed it back up. I mean, who knows? Trump has an amazing ability. Think about what we're saying. He has an amazing ability like an actor. This is like the Al Pacino of politics. He has an incredible range, as they say for actors. He has a range that Rubio and Cruz and Kasich couldn't dream of having. They're just, they're like actors who do Ford truck commercials. He's like Al Pacino. There's no comparison.
He's tremendous, as he likes to say.
It's tremendous, the best ever.
Bre, I mean, if I'm hearing you correctly, though, looking at that ad, you're saying basically just reinforces somebody who you already basically said you don't support. That it's
Right,
not gonna...
exactly. And I completely disagree with the notion that he has this amazing range at being able to be all these different people. I think that's a fallacy, and I think that throughout this entire cycle, we've seen him be the exact same. We've seen him be himself the entire time. I think people tend to project things onto him, right, is really what we're seeing. So I think Trump has been the most consistent throughout this
cycle.
Hold on, Jack. I want to hear what she's saying. Bre, what do you mean
No.
things?
Throughout his entire career, throughout his entire life, he's the exact same person. He's just as offensive. He's just as rude. He likes to flip-flop his positions back and forth depending on what's convenient to him. He's been the exact same person all 20 years, and that is someone who is inconsistent and someone who just does what's convenient for them, someone who is rude, someone who rips people off, someone who doesn't care about the little guy or anyone else. But for some reason, he gets away with it because for 20-plus years, people have been projecting things onto him. So it's not that he's behaving all these different ways, he's behaving the exact same way. People just like think that, I don't know, they just put all of their dreams and put all of their hopes and all these things onto him for some reason. So I don't think that he is an amazing range.
Well, Jack, unfortunately we're out of time. We got to run. I will say this, though. I do feel like a lot of politicians, before they run in 2018, are going to be reading The Art of the Deal, because that is the playbook for what he's running in this campaign.
Right.
I mean, and he's been clear to telegraph
They're
that.
clearly angry and fed up with the establishment. I think that's what he represents. Bre Payton, Jack Burkman, thank you both for joining us. Pleasure to have you.
Guys.
Next on Newsmax Now, any minute now, the president could pick the Supreme Court nominee. Coming up, we'll discuss its impact on the election.